Now, having started as a small event every few months in a local cinema, the One Fluid Night Film Festival has gone from strength to strength. Now, in its 5th year, the event at the Curtain Cinema in Soho highlights and celebrates queer cinema, challenging representation of the LGBTQ+ community in the mainstream. With 11 features and over 100 short films, it's a full-on weekend with plenty of after-parties for guests to stretch their legs. Well, we heard more from Tom Paul Martin, a filmmaker taking part with his satirical short called Where Are All the Gay Superheroes?
How we begin.
Film is at the end of the day a business, and businesses are driven by what kind of works for a mass market. Unfortunately, we still live in a world where there are many markets in which queer stories are not as welcome as others. So it's really important that we find ways to bring those stories into audiences.
Want to have a little bit of fun, but it's not that easy, is it?
Well, you know what? I'm a child of the 90s, so I grew up in a time where there was a lot of allegory, a lot of metaphors, particularly around stories of exclusion, and particularly around, queer and otherness stories. So I grew up with, for example, the X-Men, which is all about a group of outcasts who are rejected from society. Grew up in a time where there were stories about, heroes who have something special that makes them different, that ultimately becomes, a good thing to them. And I love those stories. They built me and lots of other people up as well, but they're not explicit. They're not stories where those characters turn around and say, I am gay, or I am a lesbian, or I'm a trans person. These are things which had to be kind of buried in subtext. So what I really think is important now is to bring those things from the subtext, to bring them into the actual text and see what that does to the story. Let's have, queer superheroes and action heroes and spies and things like that, and then see how that changes the narrative. I think on the one hand, it's really important that we have, representation, that audiences see themselves in all aspects of storytelling. I'm all for that. I think that's really important. And I think that it's good for us to show queer characters where their queerness does not define them, where it's not, the whole story is not about that. I often think when I'm watching stories about queer characters, you need something else as well. It can't take over the whole story, even though it is, it's obviously a huge part of a person's life, certainly a huge part of my life, definitely. And it's exactly for those reasons that actually sometimes it is also important to talk about it as well. You need to find that balance, because we need to, on the one hand, have characters where we can show that it doesn't define them, and we can at the same time say, this is also a big part of our lives, and, how we experience love is, ultimately humanizing. And if you take that away, it has the result of dehumanizing.
What do you think people see when they look at us? They see themselves. Not because they want the job or the outfits, but because we have power. And everyone wants to be powerful.
It is about power. What I wanted to do through this was to explore the idea of discomfort around queer people being in positions of power. I'm a great lover of superhero movies. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the Avengers. I love what the Marvel Cinematic Universe has done. But it comes back to that idea of, it being a business and a moneymaker, and there being a certain amount of fear and trepidation when it comes to pushing the envelope and creating characters who do things differently from the norm, or who do things different from the majority. So I really wanted to explore what happens when you drop two gay superheroes into this world. So the film is sort of attempt to, in a very short space of time, recreate that feeling of being in a Marvel movie, and then to kind of drop two characters in who sort of feel like they don't really exist. Two characters sort of dropped into this world where they feel like they don't belong. And so that allows you to tell the queer experience storyline, because obviously a big part of queerness, unfortunately, is sometimes existing in spaces where you feel like you don't belong, but doing it through this really fun genre of superheroes. So it's going to be an incredible festival, and the fact that it's all in Soho and at one of my favourite cinemas in the world, the Curzon Soho as well, is just like the cherry on top.
Slovenský film.
Superhero.
There we are. Well, that's on until Sunday at the Curtain Cinema in Soho with its opening gala tonight. And you can head to onefluidnight.com for more information.